The human scout ship Horizon Drift moved slowly through empty space. Its engines were quiet, almost afraid to make noise in a place where nothing should exist.
Sir, we have a critical energy spike detected on the surface.
This region was
Magnify
known
the
as the
source.
Dead Zone.
I want a full scan of that facility immediately.
Empires had fought a long time ago, and then disappeared without a trace. No one came here anymore. No traders, no explorers, no rescue teams. Only broken ships and silent metal pieces floating like dead bones in space. Inside the ship, Captain Roran watched the dark screen in front of him. He was an experienced human officer, calm and sharp. But even he disliked this place. Too many unknowns, too many stories of ships never returning. Any signals? He asked quietly. A young sensor operator shook his head. Nothing, Captain. Only background radiation and debris. Roran leaned back in his chair, thinking the mission would be simple patrol work. Check the area, confirm it is still dead, and return home.
Don't hurt me.
That was all. But space rarely stays simple.
Core
A few minutes
containment
later,
breach detected.
the ship's scanner
Evacuate
gave a soft
immediately.
beep.
I got you.
At first it was
We're getting
weak,
out of here.
almost like a mistake. Then it came again, stronger this time. The operator leaned forward quickly. Captain, I think we have something. Roran stood up immediately. Location? The screen zoomed into a small rocky planet drifting near the edge of the system. It was dark, cracked, and lifeless. A true dead world, or at least it looked like one. But the signal was coming from there, a faint energy pulse, repeating slowly, like a heartbeat. That planet is supposed to be empty, the operator said. Confused, no colonies, no stations. Nothing has lived there for decades. Roran stared at the screen for a long moment, then gave a short command. Prepare a scout drop. A small human shuttle detached from the main ship. Inside it was a single soldier, equipped with basic armor, scanner, and survival gear. His name was Jace, a quiet but skilled field scout. As the shuttle descended through the atmosphere, the sky of the planet looked broken. Gray clouds moved slowly like old smoke. Lightning flashed in the distance, but there was no sound. The surface below was worse. Destroyed structures covered the land. Metal towers bent like they had been crushed by something huge. Half-buried ships lay everywhere, torn apart and burned. Jace landed carefully near a large ruin. His boots touched cracked ground, and dust rose slowly around him. The air was cold and heavy, almost artificial. He checked his scanner again. The signal was stronger now, but still unstable. It was coming from inside the ruins. Strange place for a signal, he muttered to himself. He moved forward slowly, weapon ready. Every step made soft echoes in the silent world. No wind, no animals, no life, only silence. Inside the broken structure, everything was dark. Walls were burned black, control panels were destroyed. It looked like a research facility, but a military one, heavily upgraded. Jace stepped over alien bodies lying on the floor. They were not fresh, but not fully decayed either. Whatever happened here, it was sudden. Then his scanner beeped again, louder this time. He stopped. Right in front of him was a large containment chamber. Its glass was cracked, covered in dust and frozen energy marks inside. Something small moved. At first, he thought it was a malfunction in his visor, but then it moved again, slowly, weakly. Jace approached carefully, shining his light inside the chamber, and what he saw made him freeze. A small alien child, curled up in the corner. Her body was thin, weak, and covered in faint glowing marks. Her eyes opened slowly as the light touched her face. They were not normal eyes. They glowed faintly like dying stars. Full of fear and pain, Jace lowered his weapon slightly, confused. Why would a weapon facility contain a child? The scanner on his arm suddenly flashed red. Warning: unknown biological entity detected. Classification: unknown. Threat level: extreme possibility. He stared at the child again. She looked back at him, shaking, barely able to stand, and in a soft, broken voice, she whispered something through the cracked glass. "Don't hurt me." The broken research facility stayed silent after the soldier's footsteps stopped. Only the weak sound of falling dust and distant metal cracks filled the air. Jace stood in front of the containment chamber, still unsure what he was seeing. The scanner on his wrist kept flashing red warnings, but his eyes were locked on the child. She was small, fragile, and clearly injured. But the strange glowing marks on her skin made it clear. She was not normal life. The alien child pressed herself into the corner of the broken chamber. Her body was shaking like she expected pain any second. Her glowing eyes never left the human soldier. Fear was the only thing she knew in this moment. Jace slowly raised his scanner again, trying to understand what she was. The device struggled, as if it could not accept what it was reading. Then finally, broken words appeared on the screen. Unknown entity, genetic weapon class. Designation, Omega Seed. Jace frowned deeply. He had seen many war experiments in his career, but nothing like this. This was not just a child. This was something created, engineered, controlled. The system continued to flash more warnings. Capable of high-level bioenergy release. Potential planetary destruction if fully activated. Jace lowered the scanner slowly. His grip on the weapon tightened. He had orders for situations like this, clear and simple. Destroy anything classified as uncontrolled weapon entity. But then he looked at her again. She was not attacking, not fighting, not even moving toward him. She was just scared. Her small hands were trembling. Her breathing was uneven, like she had been locked here for a long time. There were marks on her arms. Restraint burns, failed experiments, repeated testing. Something inside Jace did not feel right. Weapons do not cry. But this child looked like she had been crying for a long time. Suddenly, the broken chamber lights flickered. A weak emergency system activated deep inside the ruins. A distorted voice echoed through the facility. Containment breach detected. Self-termination sequence in progress. Jace looked up quickly. The whole building had just become unstable. Whatever was left of this place was about to collapse. The child reacted instantly to the sound. She covered her ears and curled tighter into the corner. Her glowing marks pulsed slightly brighter for a second, then faded again. Jace stepped closer to the chamber. "Hey, can you understand me?" he asked slowly, keeping his voice calm. The child did not answer, only stared at him with wide, fearful eyes. Then very softly she whispered again, "Don't take me back." Those words stopped him, not because they were loud, but because they were broken with fear, like she had said them many times before. To people who never listened, Jace looked around the ruined room. Destroyed equipment, broken glass tubes, burned data cores. This was not a safe place for anything alive. Especially not a child. He checked his communicator. "Captain, I found something in the facility," he said quietly. There was a pause, then Captain Roran's voice came back. "Report, soldier." Jace hesitated for a second, then spoke again. "It's a child." Silence followed, then the captain replied slowly. "Confirm classification." Jace looked at the scanner again. The warning was still flashing. Omega level threat. Biological weapon designation, unstable entity. But then he looked at her face again. Her eyes were not dangerous right now. They were empty, tired, and afraid. "Unknown origin," Jace said finally. "Non-hostile behavior detected." That was not what the system said, but it was what he felt. The captain's voice became sharp. "Field protocol is clear. Eliminate or extract for containment. No exceptions." Jace closed his eyes for a moment. He knew the rules. He had followed them all his life. But something about this situation felt wrong in a way no training could explain. He opened his eyes again. The child was watching him closely now, as if waiting for the final moment. Jace lowered his weapon slightly. The chamber around her suddenly sparked. A warning light turned red, then another. The structure was collapsing faster now. "System failure. Evacuation required," echoed through the ruins. The child flinched again, ready for whatever would happen next. But instead of stepping back, Jace reached forward, not to attack, not to scan, but to open the broken containment door. The metal groaned loudly as it unlocked. Dust fell from the ceiling. The child did not move. She could not understand what was happening. For the first time in her life, someone was not pointing a weapon at her. Someone was opening the door, and that was the moment everything started to change. The broken containment door slowly slid open with a harsh metallic scream. Dust and sparks fell from the ceiling as the ruined facility continued to collapse around them. Jace stood still for a second, his hand still on the emergency release panel. He could feel the heat of failing systems rising through the floor. The entire structure was dying, one section at a time. Inside the chamber, the alien child did not move. Her glowing eyes watched every small motion the human made. Fear kept her frozen, as if she expected a trap. Jace lowered his weapon fully now. He did not point it at her anymore. Instead, he slowly stepped closer, careful not to scare her. "Come on. We need to move," he said softly. His voice was calm but urgent. The child blinked slowly, confused. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. Every voice she remembered was sharp, cold, or commanding. Another deep alarm echoed through the facility. Core structure failure. Evacuate immediately. The ground shook slightly. Small cracks began spreading across the walls. The place was collapsing faster than expected. Jace looked around quickly. There was no time left for scanning or waiting. If he stayed longer, both of them would die here. He turned back to the child. She was still sitting inside the broken chamber, not moving, like she did not understand freedom anymore. He slowly reached out his hand, not touching her, just offering, "Can you walk?" He asked. The question was simple, but strange for her ears. She hesitated, then slowly placed one foot forward. Her body shook immediately, weak from long confinement, but she did not fall. Jace nodded once. "That's it. Just stay with me." The scanner on his wrist suddenly exploded with new warnings. Bioenergy core detected, stability unknown. Omega-class entity confirmed. He frowned and looked at the child again, this time more carefully. Something was wrong, but not in a visible way. It was deeper, hidden inside her biology. As they stepped out of the chamber, Jace's scanner began to analyze her in real time. Fragments of data appeared slowly, corrupted and unstable. Subject created through synthetic genetic war design. Purpose: adaptive planetary destruction response unit. Emotional control system not installed. Jace stopped walking for a moment. "What?" he whispered to himself. This was not a natural species, not even a normal experiment. This was a weapon built with no emotional control, no stability, no limit. A living destruction system. But incomplete. He looked at her again. She was walking slowly behind him, struggling to keep balance. Not a monster. Just a child forced into something she never chose. Suddenly, a deep mechanical voice echoed through the ruins. A hidden system still active somewhere below. Primary subject detected. Initiating recapture protocol. The child immediately stopped. Her body reacted before her mind. Her glowing marks pulsed brighter for a second, like a reflex. Jace noticed it immediately. "Don't react to that," he said quickly. "You are safe." But the words meant nothing to her yet. Safety was not something she had ever learned. The ground beneath them suddenly shook harder. A massive explosion sounded somewhere deep in the facility. The final collapse had begun. Jace grabbed her arm gently. "We are leaving now," he said firmly. They ran through the burning corridors. Walls cracked open. Fire spread across broken metal floors. The air became thick with smoke and falling debris. The child struggled to keep up. Her small body was not made for running, but Jace slowed down so she could follow. Another warning system activated, louder this time. Self-destruct sequence active. T-3 minutes. Jace looked ahead. The exit tunnel was still far away. Too far for safety, but their only chance. Behind them, parts of the facility began collapsing completely. Explosions lit up the dark corridors one after another. The child suddenly tripped. Falling to the ground, she let out a small sound of pain, but did not cry out loud. She was too used to silence, too used to pain. Jace stopped instantly, turned back. He saw her struggling to get up, shaking, weak. For a split second, he hesitated. The building was seconds away from total destruction. But then he made his decision. He ran back, lifted her carefully into his arms. She froze immediately, not understanding what was happening. No one had ever carried her before. No one had ever held her like this. "Hold on," Jace said quietly. And then he ran, faster than before. Behind them, The facility screamed in metal collapse. And in that moment, the most dangerous secret of the galaxy was no longer a weapon in a chamber, it was a child, being carried out of the ruins by a human who refused to leave her behind. The burning ruins of the alien facility continued collapsing behind them. Explosions echoed through the broken corridors like dying thunder. Jace ran through the smoke-filled tunnel, holding the alien child tightly in his arms. Her small body was still frozen with shock. She did not understand why she was not left behind. All her life, everything that stopped working was abandoned. Everything that became dangerous was destroyed. But this human was doing something different. He was running away with her, not from her. The emergency lights above them flickered violently. The entire structure was seconds away from full destruction. 2 minutes to core failure, the system voice repeated coldly. Jace did not slow down. His breathing was heavy, but controlled. He had trained for escape scenarios, but never one like this. The child shifted slightly in his arms. Her glowing eyes looked up at him for the first time this close. There was confusion in her expression. Not fear now, but uncertainty. Why? Are you carrying me? She whispered weakly. Jace did not answer immediately. He focused on the path ahead, avoiding falling metal and collapsing walls. Then he said quietly, "Because you can't run fast enough." That answer was simple, but it broke something inside her thinking. No order, no command, no experiment. Just a reason. Suddenly, Jace's communicator burst into life. Captain Roran's voice came through. Sharp and strict. "Status report, soldier." Jace continued running, exiting facility now. "Structure is collapsing." There was a short pause, then the captain spoke again. "And the subject?" Jace looked down at the child for a moment. Her eyes were still fixed on him, waiting. Then he answered, "Alive." With me. Silence followed. It was not approval or rejection. Just silence. Then the captain's voice turned harder. "Field orders remain unchanged. Omega-class entities must be terminated or contained. You are exposing yourself to extreme risk." Jace slowed slightly as he reached a split corridor. One path was blocked by fire, the other by collapsing debris. He chose the safer one without hesitation, still holding the child tightly. "Understood," Jace replied calmly. But he did not stop. Behind them, a massive explosion shook the entire facility. The shockwave pushed them forward, nearly knocking them down. Dust filled the air. Visibility dropped. The child coughed softly, holding onto his armor instinctively. Jace tightened his grip. "It's okay," he said, even though the situation was not okay at all. They reached a wide-open chamber. The exit tunnel was visible now, but partially blocked by falling beams. Only a narrow path remained, and time was running out. 30 seconds to full collapse, the system warned. Jace looked at the path, then at the child, for a brief moment. He thought about mission protocol, about rules, about consequences, about the galaxy's fear of this entity. Omega-class designation meant extinction-level risk. It meant destroy before it wakes fully. But what he saw in his arms was not destruction. It was a child breathing softly, scared of loud noises, a being who did not even know what she was supposed to be. He stopped running for half a second. The child noticed immediately. "Are you going to leave me?" She asked quietly. That question hit harder than any weapon, because she asked it like it was normal, like everyone always left her in the end. Jace looked at her, then at the collapsing tunnel ahead. Something inside him made a decision that no training ever prepared him for. Not logic, not orders, just choice. "No," he said firmly. "I'm not leaving you." The child blinked slowly, as if trying to understand the meaning of that word. Jace adjusted his hold and moved forward again, faster. The exit was just ahead now. Suddenly, another voice came through the communicator. Captain Roran again, but more urgent. "Jace, confirm your action. You are leaving a classified weapon alive." Jace stepped over a broken beam, nearly slipping. "I'm leaving a child alive," he corrected. There was silence again, heavier this time. The captain replied slowly, "You don't understand what she is." Jace finally reached the last barrier before the exit. a collapsed wall blocking half the passage. He prepared to climb through it, still holding her. Then he said quietly, "Maybe that's the problem. Everyone only sees what she is supposed to be." Behind them, the facility's core began to glow red. Final countdown reached critical level. Self-destruct in 10 seconds. Jace pushed through the broken exit just as the structure behind them exploded. A massive wave of fire and metal erupted into the sky. The shockwave threw them forward onto the rocky ground outside. Silence followed. Only smoke and falling ash filled the air. Jace lay on the ground for a moment, still holding the child. Her small body was shaking, but alive. She slowly lifted her head and looked at the burning ruins. The place that had been her entire world was gone. Then she looked back at the human who did not let go of her, and for the first time in her life, she did not feel like a weapon. She felt something she could not name yet, safety, and in that moment, the human captain made his choice. Not by orders, not by fear, but by humanity. The sky above the dead planet was turning darker, not from night, but from the smoke rising out of the destroyed facility. Jace lay on the cracked ground for a moment, still holding the alien child close to his chest. His breathing was heavy, dust covered his armor, and heat from the explosion still burned in the air. The ruins behind them collapsed completely. Metal towers folded into themselves, and flames rose high like silent pillars. Everything that was inside was gone now, but they were alive. The alien child slowly lifted her head. Her glowing eyes stared at the burning wreckage. For a long moment, she did not move. This place was all she had ever known. Pain, experiments, isolation. It was her entire world, and now it was nothing but fire and dust. She did not cry. She had forgotten how. Jace sat up slowly, still holding her. His communicator was flashing nonstop with Captain Roran's messages, but he ignored them for now. The ground beneath them shook slightly again, not from the explosion, but from unstable terrain. The entire region was becoming dangerous after the facility core collapse. "We need to move," Jace said quietly. The child did not respond. Her eyes were still locked on the burning ruins. Jace followed her gaze for a moment, then gently turned her slightly away. "Don't look at it anymore," he said softly. She blinked, confused. "Where do I go now?" she asked weakly. That question stayed in the air for a second, simple but heavy. Jace did not have a perfect answer. There was no place marked for her in any system, no home, no category, no safe file in the galaxy database. But he still answered. "With me," he said. The child looked at him again, like she was trying to understand if that was real or just another temporary command. Before she could speak again, Jace's ship finally arrived. A small human shuttle descended from the sky, breaking through the smoke clouds. Its landing lights cut through the dark air. The engine noise echoed across the broken land, inside the main fleet. Captain Roran was watching everything through live feed. His face was serious, unreadable. "Bring them back," he said through the comm channel. The shuttle landed a short distance away. The ground shook slightly as its engines powered down. The door opened. A rescue pilot stepped out and looked at the destruction in silence. Jace stood up carefully, still holding the child. He walked toward the ship slowly. Every step felt heavier now. Not from injury, but from decision. Because what he was doing now was no longer a simple mission. It was defiance of protocol. The alien child suddenly tightened her grip on his armor. She had never seen a ship like this before. Too many lights, too much movement, too much unknown. "Is that safe?" she whispered. Jace looked down at her. "Yes," he said. "It's safe." But she did not fully believe words yet. She only believed actions. As they reached the shuttle ramp, the pilot hesitated. He looked at Jace, then at the child. "Captain said bring it in as classified asset," the pilot said quietly. Jace stopped for a moment. He understood what asset meant: object, containment, storage, control. He looked at the child in his arms. Her glowing eyes were watching everything carefully. Then he said firmly, "She is not an asset." The pilot did not reply. Inside the fleet channel, Captain Roran's voice came again. "Jace, you are still in violation of protocol." Jace stepped onto the shuttle ramp. The wind from the engines blew dust around them. I know, he replied. There was a pause. Then the captain spoke again, slower this time. You are bringing an Omega-class entity onto a human warship. Jace looked at the child again. She was now holding onto him tighter, as if afraid the ground itself might disappear. Yes, Jace said calmly. The shuttle doors began closing slowly as they entered. The child looked back one last time at the dead planet. The burning ruins were still visible in the distance. Fading into smoke, that place was gone. But so was her old life. The doors closed with a deep metallic sound, and for the first time, she was inside something new. The shuttle lifted off, rising through the smoke-filled sky. The planet below became smaller and smaller until it disappeared. Inside the cabin, silence filled the space. Jace sat down and gently placed her beside him. She did not move away. She stayed close, like she was afraid of being left again. The pilot adjusted the course toward the human fleet. Stars slowly appeared outside the window, cold and endless. The alien child stared at them, not understanding what she was seeing. Are those more worlds? She asked softly. Jace looked out for a moment. Yes, he said. And you're not trapped in one anymore. She turned her head slightly toward him. Still unsure, still learning. But something had already changed inside her. The idea that movement could mean safety, not punishment. Behind them, the destroyed planet faded into darkness, and ahead of them was something she had never known existed, a future. The human shuttle moved silently through deep space. Stars stretched across the dark like endless cold lights. Inside the small cabin, silence felt different now, not empty, but uncertain. Jace sat near the console, checking flight data and fleet coordinates. But his attention kept shifting back to the alien child sitting beside him. She was still, unusually still. Her glowing eyes moved slowly, observing every detail of the ship, every light, every sound, every small movement of air vents. It was as if she was learning a new world without words. The seat she sat on was too big for her small body. She kept her hands close to herself, unsure if she was allowed to touch anything. Jace noticed it quietly. He lowered his voice and said, "You can relax." The child blinked at him. Relax? She repeated softly, like the word was unfamiliar. Jace thought for a moment, then nodded slightly. It means, you are safe now. She looked down at her hands. Safety was not a concept she understood fully in her life. Every quiet moment was followed by pain or testing. The ship hummed gently, a calm sound compared to the chaos she had known. Slowly, she leaned slightly toward the wall, still alert, but less tense than before. Jace opened a small ration pack and placed it near her. Simple human food, nothing special. She stared at it without moving, then looked at him as if asking permission. He nodded again. "It's yours," he said. Carefully, she touched it, then slowly picked it up, examining it like it was a strange object from another universe. She took a small bite, paused, then another. Her reaction was quiet, but noticeable. For the first time, she was not surviving. She was just eating. Jace watched her for a moment, then turned back to the console. But something in his expression had changed slightly, not mission-focused anymore, but thoughtful. A short communication signal suddenly activated. The fleet channel opened again. Captain Roran appeared on the screen. His face was calm but serious. "Report your status," he said. Jace sat up slightly. "Returning to fleet," he replied. The captain's eyes shifted slightly. "And the subject?" Jace looked sideways at the child. She was still eating slowly, unaware of the conversation. He answered simply, "She is here." The captain stayed silent for a moment, then spoke carefully. "You understand what you have brought onto this ship?" Jace replied without hesitation, "Yes." There was another pause. He continued, "Omega-class biological weapon. Classified extinction-level asset. Entire civilizations were erased because of beings like her." The words filled the cabin like cold air. But Jace did not look away from the screen. "I understand what she was made to be," he said, then added quietly, "but that is not what she is right now." The captain's expression changed slightly, not anger, but concern. "You are emotionally attached to a classified entity." Jace looked at the child again. She was watching the blinking lights on the console, curious and calm. "No," he said. "I am just not treating her like a weapon." Silence followed again. The captain leaned back slightly. "This will not stay your decision for long," he said. "The council will decide her fate when we arrive." Jace nodded slowly. "I expected that." The transmission ended. The cabin returned to silence. Only the soft engine hum remained. The child looked up at him after a moment. "Are they angry?" she asked softly. Jace thought for a second, then answered honestly, "They are unsure." "About me?" she asked again. "Yes." She lowered her gaze slightly. As if that answer confirmed something she already believed, Jace noticed it. "You are not a problem," he said firmly. She looked at him again, confused by the statement. "I don't understand," she said. Jace leaned back slightly, choosing his words carefully. "You are not something to fix or remove," he said. "You are just here." That simple explanation seemed to pause her thoughts. She repeated quietly, "Just here." Jace nodded. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The ship moved forward through space, steady and quiet. Then suddenly, the child shifted closer. Not fully touching him, but closer than before. Jace noticed but did not move away. She looked at his hands, then asked softly, "Why did you take me?" That question stayed in the air longer than the others. Jace looked out at the stars before answering. Because the truth was not simple. He could have followed orders. He could have left her. He could have treated her like every report said. But instead, he said, "Because you didn't ask to be created like that." She blinked slowly. "And because you didn't hurt me," he added. The child looked down again, thinking deeply, as if trying to understand something that had never been explained to her before. After a while, she said quietly, "I don't know what I am supposed to be." Jace turned slightly toward her. "You don't need to know that yet," he replied. The ship continued its journey, stars passing slowly outside like silent witnesses. And in that small human shuttle, something rare began to form. Not trust fully, not understanding fully, but connection, a fragile bond between a soldier who followed orders his whole life, and a child who was never given a choice at all. The human fleet station appeared slowly through the viewport, a massive structure floating in space like a silent metal city. Ships moved around it in perfect formation. Bright lights marked docking bays, defense grids, and command sectors. But inside Jace's shuttle, the atmosphere felt different, heavier, not from gravity, but from expectation. The alien child sat quietly beside him, her eyes fixed on the enormous structure growing larger with every second. She had never seen anything this big before. Not a facility, not a ruin, not a cage. This was something else entirely. Jace noticed her silence. "You'll be fine," he said calmly. She did not answer immediately, then asked softly, "Is this another place I cannot leave?" That question hit quietly, not loud, not dramatic, but deep. Jace looked at her for a moment. "No," he said. "This is just a stop." The shuttle entered docking sequence. Metal clamps locked in place with a heavy sound. The air pressure shifted as systems aligned. Then the doors opened. Bright white lights flooded the entrance corridor. 2 armed guards stood waiting, motionless. Behind them was Captain Roran, and several high-ranking human officers. Their faces were serious, unreadable. Jace stood up first, then gently helped the child down from the seat. She held onto his sleeve tightly, unsure of the crowd in front of her. Whispers began immediately among the officers. Low voices, cautious words, scanning eyes. "That's the Omega subject. It's smaller than the report suggested. Is it stable?" The alien child heard none of the words clearly, but she felt the tension. Her body reacted instinctively, staying close to Jace. Captain Roran stepped forward. He looked at the child for a long moment, then at Jace. "You brought her here," he said calmly. Jace nodded. "Yes." The captain did not show anger, but authority. "Against direct classification protocol," he added. Jace replied, "I know." Silence spread across the corridor. Then one of the science officers stepped forward. A scanning device activated in his hand. It projected holographic data into the air. Lines of unknown genetic structures appeared. Energy readings fluctuated across the display. Unstable Omega-class signature confirmed, the officer said. However, current energy output is minimal, another officer frowned. That's not possible for a weapon-class entity. The alien child took a small step backward. The lights, voices, and machines were overwhelming her senses. Jace gently placed a hand near her shoulder. Not forcing, just grounding her. She's not a threat right now, he said firmly. A senior council member stepped forward. His voice was colder than the others. That designation does not change what she was built for. The child looked up at Jace, confused again. Built for what? She asked softly. Jace did not answer immediately. Instead, he looked at the officers. She doesn't know, he said. That statement caused a shift in the room. Not everyone reacted the same way. Some saw danger, some saw data, but a few saw something else. Captain Roran raised a hand. Containment protocols are being prepared, he said. Jace stepped slightly forward. What kind of containment? The captain met his eyes. Secure observation until full classification is decided. The child tightened her grip on Jace's sleeve again. She did not understand the words, but she understood tone. Jace looked down at her for a moment, then back at the captain. She is not going into a cage, he said quietly. The corridor went silent again. For the first time, Captain Roran hesitated, not because of rank, but because of certainty in Jace's voice. You are emotionally compromised, the captain said finally. Jace replied, maybe, then added, but I am also the only one here who saw her before the reports did. The science officer looked at the data again, then spoke slowly. There is something unusual. Everyone turned toward him. The energy signature is not fully active, he continued. It is suppressed, like it was never allowed to develop properly. That statement changed the atmosphere slightly. The council members exchanged looks. The child stepped a little closer to Jace, as if sensing she was being talked about like an object again. Jace gently placed himself half between her and the group. Captain Roran finally spoke. Council decision will determine next steps, he said, then added. But until then, she remains under your responsibility. Jace nodded once. I accept that. The child looked up at him again. Responsibility? She repeated softly. Jace lowered his voice. It means I don't leave you alone. That simple explanation stayed with her. The officers began to disperse, continuing discussions in low tones. The child watched them carefully until they disappeared into the corridors. Then silence returned. Only Jace and the child remained standing in the docking bay entrance, the massive ship stretching above them like a floating world. She looked around slowly. So many humans, she said quietly. Jace nodded. Yes, and none of them know me, she added. Jace paused, then replied. Not yet. She looked at him again. Do you know me? That question stayed between them, heavy but simple. Jace thought for a moment, then said honestly, I know you were alone. She lowered her gaze slightly, but this time, not in fear, in thought. The galaxy had already decided what she was supposed to be. A weapon, a threat, a classified danger. But inside the human fleet station, something new had begun. A question no report could answer, not what she was, but what she could become.